Man's best friend and mama's sweet companion. During a divorce, I want to know who gets the pets and what does the law say. To find out, we welcome attorney Joe Smith of Miles Mason Family Law Group. Hey, Joe, how are you today?
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Okay. If I got a pet and I come into this marriage with my pet, me and my baby, we hanging out. We come together, we're a package deal.
Right.
Something happens, there's a crack. Who gets my baby?
Generally, you would keep your baby.
I keep my baby.
Okay. Because the way the law is right now, pets are treated as personal property.
Okay.
So any property that you had before the marriage, the court can't divide that. So you'll be able to keep your fur baby, but if there's a scenario where a court could say, well, you had this pet before you were married, but for some strange reason, you guys treat it as your pet. You
Right.
know, that's called transmutation. But generally, with pets, I don't see that being a possibility. But good news, you'll still keep your baby.
Okay, good. That's the good news. Okay, so let me ask you this. We acquire a pet together, and now we're on the break.
Oh, yeah.
And say this pet was highly sick, a lot of bills, got cancer in one eye or something. You know, I got to take him to the vet all the time.
Right.
Now, how does that work?
Well, the courts will still treat it as personal property.
Okay.
So the court would, really want to figure out whose dog is it, even though it was acquired during the marriage. You know, who was the person
Who really fought for it? Who really wanted
cared
it?
for the dog, make sure the doggy met all of its vet appointments, went to the eye doctor, things of that sort. So that's one way that courts will be able to determine who keeps the dog. Now, if there's a dispute, then the court's going to have to make a decision that somebody's not going to like. And oftentimes, typically the party that's able to show that I was one that actually caring for this pet should receive the animal.
Okay, so if I receive the animal, can I get doggy support?
No. No.
You can't have everything, huh?
You can't have everything.
I can't have everything. Well, I mean, because that gets really expensive. And say we were splitting that before, we were sharing the cost. Wouldn't that kind of be some kind of liquidable or some kind of asset?
No, because personal property is essentially, the court will identify the property, see if it's marital or separate, value the property, see how much this animal is worth. And then that person, the court will determine who gets it. Now, if there's a scenario, let's say you and your spouse agree to share custody.
Share custody.
Now that's a little bit different.
So
Now,
I get a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday situation. He gets Thursday, Friday, Saturday, like that? Like you dropping the kid off?
kind of like a kid, but that would only happen if the parties both agree.
Okay.
And part of that agreement, the attorneys would want to negotiate support. So puppy support will be probably a factor. However, it's kind of frowned upon.
Why do attorneys always have however?
It looks frowned upon in the sense that, in that scenario, you're elevating animal to almost the status of a child. And you will have issues concerning enforcement. What happens if your spouse doesn't bring your doggy over for your day to have him,
Oh, yeah. So now you're creating, okay.
And courts will have to say, am I really going to have to send this person to jail for not exchanging the puppy or hold this person in contempt for not paying puppy support? But way the law is right now, the courts can't force one party to pay puppy support unless there's an agreement between the parties that they provide for that.
Okay. But it's strictly upon me and my ex to make that
correct.
Work
so
out.
If
the courts don't get involved in that.
Correct. If you and your spouse agree to that scenario, then the court will approve that agreement.
Got it. Okay. Now tell me about this bill that was up for a while for doggy support, or just how that all works.
Well, there was a bill that was pending in the Tennessee legislature that essentially provided for joint custody in a divorce.
Okay.
And this is really a response to a nationwide trend that acknowledges how society's views of pets have evolved. Some statistics say that approximately 80% of households treat their animals as if they're part of the family.
Absolutely. And think about the ones who provide emotional support and things like that, because now it becomes, I feel like, a medical kind of concern.
Correct. So, unfortunately, the bill did not get out of committee. Okay. However, I can see in the future maybe a similar bill pop up again in the legislature for the legislature to consider and pass. But I think for right now, the way the law is right now, unless the parties agree, the court's not going to enter into some puppy support or puppy scheduling order up for your dog. Say, hey, I want to get my puppy on this day. So,
Right. Well, based upon your experience, what would you say is probably the best approach to all of this?
the best approach to all of it would be, for one, to really have reasonable expectations. You know, in divorces, oftentimes people aren't their best versions of themselves, and sometimes they want to pick battles that really don't make sense.
Yeah,
So
just dragging
pick
it
your
out.
battles.
Yeah.
You know,
Somebody be the bigger person and just bow
right. Be
out.
the bigger person. If you know you've never cared for that dog, don't ask the course. Say, hey, I want it. Come on.
So you can mistreat the dog while I'm
Right,
gone.
right.
All right, well, thank you so much, Joe. Now you can keep your fur babies. If you need any help, ta-da! Joe can help you with it. An important topic no longer on the back burner. We're caring for our veins. Next up, stay with us.